sense of the world. To make sense of the world. Inner and outer world peace through individual strength. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. They're going crazy today. What is that all about? Good morning. Good morning. Wherever you are, whenever thou art. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense network, your only no-nonsense podcast. With your host here, Herbie. This is Pal Go On. Good morning. Woo! Warm here I'm at right now. But it is cold outside, though. Good morning wherever you are, whenever thou art. Today is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, which, as you know, here on Pal Go On, as we are discussing the relationship between us and other things every single day. Specifically on Wednesday, we are discussing our relationship between ourselves and the outside world. The world, it is Warfare Wednesday here on Pal Go On. My name is Herbie. Welcome. Let's do some body magic tricks to feel so good from the inside out today in this simulation that we find ourselves in which we die every 5 minutes. But that timer is reset with a breath. Every breath we take resets this timer in this simulation of ours. And we invite you to hold that controller properly today. With us in this simulation of ours, we invite you to hold this controller properly today. How do we hold this controller properly today? Well, we invite you to pretend that there's a candle, a lit candle, just flickering in front of your lips right now, that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there, and you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily. In this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. We challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Just flickering in front of your lips, and you're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling. But we're observing our sense of self wherever you are, and observing our sense of self as in how your right arm might feel different than your left arm. Or how even with your eyes closed, you could tell your head feels different than your tailbone or your heels. Don't we have an internal map of ourselves that we can tell the shape, size, and function of our body even with our eyes closed? As we observe our sense of self, how does it feel as we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out? And how might the relationship of our body shift in relationship to itself when we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips? Everyone's lips, not just your lips, but every human being's lips. There's a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out, including yours. In this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath. Today is Warfare Wednesday, wherever you are. Whether you are outside taking a walk, whether it is nighttime and you're watching us in the future, like some crazy time traveler, you in a VOD, a video on demand, like on YouTube, or maybe you are watching us in the present at the premiere, 9 a.m., November 16th, Wednesday, 2022, wherever you are, whenever thou art. Today is Warfare Wednesday. Today we're going to be discussing right and wrong. We're going to be discussing right and wrong as we attack popular concepts in the world right now. As we were all being brainwashed, what is really going on? Today we will be talking about right and wrong. You know, right and wrong, as in, you know nothing if you aren't looking within a truthful context. You know nothing. It's like trying to talk about how to do backflips on Earth, but you are unaware of gravity. You know nothing until you acknowledge first the gravitational pull that is all around us, the context that we live in. And so today, we'll be talking about right and wrong. Can there be a right and wrong? What do you mean a right and wrong? There's no such thing as right and wrong. Art is subjective. All art is exactly the same. All facts are exactly the same. Every human being has complete control over doing whatever they want, and they shouldn't care about right and wrong because there's nothing that unites human beings. We're not alike at all. Psych! we could talk more about right and wrong today. After this short break, thank you for coming through. Back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no nonsense podcast with your host here, Herbie. This is Pal Go On. We'll be right back to discuss right and wrong on this Warfare Wednesday. Hope you're having a great morning so far. Drained? Depressed? Has the chaos of the world got you feeling confused and apathetic? Even gassy? Feeling like nothing gets you out of this funk? When you're feeling lost in the daily grind, left feeling meaningless, don't touch grass, touch the front of your shins. Feel less tired and more inspired with us on the Best Feeling Podcast. Pal, go on. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why? To achieve inner and outer world peace through individual strength. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast and the Best Feeling Network. Your only no-nonsense podcast with your host, Herbie. This is Pal Go On. This is another Warfare Wednesday here on Pal Go On. Pal Go On is a full-body experience, so we hope that you will enjoy Pal Go On by allowing us to blend into the symphony, the background that is your life. Blend into all the sounds as you become aware of all the sounds and stay in the moment and stay in the present as we always should. As we always should. Whether you are in a coffee shop, whether you are in a mall, as we're listening for 7 different things to stretch ourselves. Yeah, as we listen for 7 different things at different lengths away from us, to stretch our self-awareness like a muscle and stay in the present here today, as we always want to stay. Don't we? Especially here on Pal Go On, we do thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here to blend into the symphony of the sounds of your life. Is that a bird in the distance? Are those some shopping wheel carts that are rubbing against the floor? What's that sound over there? Is that possibly a baby crying? A cute baby crying? Is that the sound of some pen and paper? Is that the sound of a latte being made? We are honored to be part of the symphony of sounds around you. We hope you enjoy your stay here. Today we'll be talking about right and wrong. In this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath that we take. We invite you to hold this controller properly, that we find our souls locked into these vessels, our controllers. This is simulation of ours. We invite you to hold your controller properly today. How do we hold your controller properly today? Well, of course, we're always pretending that there's a candle, a lit candle just in front of the lips that we're trying to not put out, in front of everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out. Just a lit candle, like a birthday candle, and they're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling necessarily. It's simply that there is a lit candle in front of the lips that they're trying to not put out, putting your own. And simply observing our sense of self as we do so. You might want to try leaving the swallow muscles alone, as we've discussed in this week's Mover Monday. We might think about observing our sense of self as we leave our swallowing muscles alone. And how in the heck does that feel for you? As we observe our sense of self using some good old body magic tricks, like pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that we're trying to not put out, and leaving our swallowing muscles alone and observing our sense of self. Today we'll be talking about right and wrong. Right and wrong. As we set up for this conversation. We're gonna have a good conversation right here. Like yesterday, as we were talking about yesterday on True Love Tuesday, you don't understand anything if you're not understanding the world in the context of the relationship between the two sexes. Not necessarily that you don't understand the world if you don't understand how to get sex. But on a broader scale, if you aren't understanding that we live in the context that is the relationship between the two sexes and how the two sexes interact, or how they hold them in esteem or not. If men and women love each other in that generation or not. If the men are seen as providers and protectors in order for women to properly be explorers and nurturers. Understanding the context that you live in includes such things like gravity. You understand that this is simply just a context that you live in. There's not really any hope in changing this specific context you live in, but rather in our day-to-day lives, we learn to live with it. We learn to use it to our advantage. And how time only moves one way. These are certain contexts we live in, and as such, the world that we live in, the world that we enjoy, the world that we look forward to, all shaped by the relationship between the two sexes. As in, not just the fact that the two sexes can have sex and create more generations, but also the dance, or also the effect of the relationship, as in what the sexes believe about each other. How much confidence or how much respect they have for one another in that generation. Whether or not they believe that the sexes can do the jobs of both sexes and do not individually need the other sexes, or whether or not the two sexes of that generation primarily feel as though they can work together as is designed. As every generation, including yourself, is simply created from the relationship between the two sexes in a literal way. In a literal way. In a literal way. You are generated from the relationship between the two sexes. But just as well, in order to receive the greatest goods in life, we must also look at the relationship between the two sexes, as it is all we know about life. It is all we know about our experience, are these two sides, and such that we were created from them. It is part of us, so in order to receive most authenticity and goodness for ourselves in our private lives, we would do well to adjust to the truths and ride this tidal wave instead of trying to ride against it. At the end of the day, of course, this is all just advice, as we allow all of these words to go in one ear, out the other, and holding on to what means something to us. And at the end of the day, you're always going to do what you do. But if you find something here that means something to you, that's even better. We'll be right back to talk about why right and wrong should be talked about. We need to have this. We gotta have this conversation for the nation, for your city, for your family, for the world. This conversation needs to be had. Why right and wrong should be considered not just in your idea of morality to the world, but why right and wrong should be even considered even in your personal daily lives. And practical, actionable, specific advice instead. We'll be right back after this. A short break, but only if you remember to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. We'll be right back on this Warfare Wednesday on Padawan. My name's Herbie. Claim they're going to be boosting your mental capabilities, your physical performance, your behaviors in life. Tried them and then felt motivated yet slightly confused and cautious. I mean, are the effects even real or are they placebo? Are you achieving what you think you are achieving, or is it imagination? Do you have all this energy now, or is that imagination too? Be done with placebos. Be done with uncertainty. Isn't it so draining to be uncertain? You can't even begin to gain confidence in what you're doing. How about some actionable, specific advice instead? Take this gummy, feel the front of your shins. Bam! That one's free. Take Padawan with you wherever you go, whenever you go, and feel so good from the inside out. Feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. And using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Why? So that, of course, we can achieve inner then outer world peace through individual strength. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no nonsense podcast. My name is Herbie, and this is Pal Go On. Welcome back to Warfare Wednesday. We are talking about right and wrong. As we prep ourselves by holding our controller properly, we invite you to pretend there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, and it's just flickering there. You're not thinking about inhaling or exhaling wherever you are, but you're just trying to put it out. And how does your sense of self feel? Does your sense of self adjust? Today we are talking about right and wrong and why that applies to not just your moral outlook on life as a thought experiment, but also as a practical way to improve thy feelings, to improve thyself today, here and now, feeling so good from the inside out, both immediately then continuously. Today we're talking about right and wrong. Something the world really doesn't want to talk about. We're currently in an era in which right and wrong is a taboo. Even the concept of there being such a thing as some kind of solid right and wrong is a taboo. But we're here to tell you that has been the big lie. It has been a biggest lie. It has been a biggest lie. Right and wrong. Right and wrong. Like yesterday, we talked about how understanding the context you live in. This entire week so far, we've been talking about how understanding the context in which you live in, like recognizing that gravity is what it is and we have a relationship to it in which we are affected by it. And understanding this relationship to gravity allows you to actually move with more freedom despite gravity being seeming like a quote-unquote limitation. You learn to work with that limitation to have more freedom overall. And likewise, when you integrate with the truths of the fact that the time runs one way and that we are only in the present, you are also allowed yet another layer of freedom. And yet again, as we integrate closer to the truth as to what we are, as to the context that we live in which our experience has been created due to the relationship between the two sexes of the one human race that we are all part of, is what creates everything we know. Not just literally in a physical pregnancy kind of way, doesn't just give birth to the culture due to that physical, literal sense of the relationship between the two sexes, but because as that is the function of creating hope for the new generation, our entire experience is built off of understanding it. Why? Because we want to achieve the most good in our lives. What is that good? Right and wrong, does that even exist? Well, it exists in the same way that the balance to balance a bunch of blocks on each other exists. With relationship to gravity. Does right and wrong exist? Well, does balance and imbalance exist? Does balance and imbalance exist? Such that can you notice if something is in balance or not? Yes, of course we can. Not just with our eyes, but with our other senses too. We don't really hear balance as much, but we can discuss balance in other terms. But how long does it take to describe the balance of a tower of blocks that is being built? How hard is it to describe that versus to simply observe it? And yet we know so wholeheartedly that gravity exists, or this balance exists. And so doesn't right and wrong follow a similar pattern to balance, balancing a bunch of blocks? In that, isn't it a lot easier to balance something in which you know more about? The more information you have about a complex subject or a complex shape, whether it's size, a shape, its weight, all of those can help us identify how to balance these blocks together. More information about what we are balancing allows us to balance those objects better. And so aren't we put on this earth in order to understand ourselves better? Why? Because if we understand ourselves better, we can balance ourselves better. So it becomes a continuous and endless search to learn more about our shape in order to balance our shape as best as possible. Why do you want to balance our shape as much as possible? Well, you can balance two blocks on one another, but then you're only balancing two blocks on one another. How much height do you get? How much greatness do you achieve? How exciting is two blocks stacked upon another, onto each other? Now, how exciting is 500 blocks stacked up onto each other? How balanced does that have to be? Obviously, very balanced. And how do you best balance 500 blocks? Well, we must know what the shape of those blocks are, what size. The more we know about those blocks, the easier it is to balance 500 blocks, though it's difficult in the end anyway. And lastly, how great is the stacking of 500 blocks compared to stacking two? The greatness you can achieve by balancing. Very similar to right and wrong. As in, right and wrong can be identified should there be a goal like balance being established. And then how do we achieve more rights and more wrongs? If we are playing the balance game to get as much height as we can in the human experience for all of human flourishing, how do we get as high as we can on that tower? Well, with the most balance, and how do we achieve balance the best? Well, we need to know most about those objects so we can tell we are moving those objects closer to balance by using what is right, or away from balance by obsessing over what's wrong. And why do we want balance? Well, don't we remember that balance is, in fact, the key towards freedom, key towards authenticity, key towards human flourishing and human peace and human ability to overcome all suffering and human success and human authenticity and human happiness. All easiest from a point of balance, both mentally, emotionally, and literally physically in the body. In what way are we most free to move in any direction, spontaneously and most authentically and most satisfyingly with most confidence? Is from a place of balance. Physically in the body, emotionally in the heart, and mentally in the mind. Don't we need that balance mentally? Don't we need that balance emotionally? Don't we need that balance physically in all those separate scopes? Don't we need balance? Don't we need to be at a place of balance in order to move freely and authentically into every new state that we want to be in, or that we want to react to the world in? Don't we need emotional balance in order to be able to feel the moment and feel integrated into the moment so that we're not distracted with emotional pain? Don't we need mental and spiritual balance in order to also stay in the present and recognize the choices that we are making and feel at peace with our choices? Don't we need to feel balance in that state? And so don't we desire this freedom so that we can act freely in every moment, that we are being authentic and confident in our authenticity, by not trying to predict the moment or playing victim to the moment, but rather be free to move in any direction that we want, which can only happen from a place of balance. And so why do we care about right and wrong in our day-to-day lives? Well, because we care about being balanced in our day-to-day lives, and right and wrong can be highly correlated with balance itself. Right and wrong can be highly correlated, if not the same as balance itself. Again, right and wrong might be balance itself, as we try to achieve extra new heights every generation and every lifetime. We try to achieve extra new heights. And so right moves us towards balance to reach new heights. Whereas wrong leads us away from balance towards toppling our tower and all the progress that we've made. And how do we balance ourselves better? By knowing more about the objects that are being balanced. And in the human experience, how do we know more about ourselves? How do we know more about ourselves in the human experience? Well, you need the male and the female to be able to observe itself. If it was all males, you wouldn't be able to observe what a human is, as you would have nothing to make the next generation. And so you would have just a bunch of males, if even possible for that, and then they would just die out. Or if you just had a bunch of females, you could never observe themselves in order to balance, to create greater and greater things by observing themselves and learning to balance, using what is right and wrong, using what is towards balance and away from balance, in order to create greater things for the human flourishing. There could be none of that, because there would be no other part of the species. It would just be females, which would then die out, because you can't reproduce with just one of the sexes. So by virtue of biology, of needing the two sexes to create more, you also manifest the spiritual or the metaphysical purpose of having two sexes, which is to observe itself. You need two parts of itself to be able to observe itself in a way that could create more balance. Why? Because you can't observe yourself in one lifetime. You would require more lifetimes, and so you would need to be able to create more of yourself, to be able to observe yourself longer, to create a longer balance. And necessarily you're going to need the male and female physically to do that, but also in a metaphysical sense, to be able to observe the self, you would need a male and something that is not male, so that the male can know what it is, what its purpose is. And then you need a female and then something that is not female, so you can identify what the female is also with what it is not, just as everything else in the universe is. We'll be right back to talk about why right and wrong also affects our outlook on the worldview and how we feel about the world. Why right and wrong matters about in the world, and also about your personal life again. Thanks for sticking with us. Please remember to feel the front of your shins wherever you are. I hope you're having a fantastic morning. We're talking about right and wrong. We're talking about some balanced stuff. I hope you're feeling so balanced by placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches like all of the times. Remember that you do not sit on your legs. We shall be right back after this short break on the Best Feeling podcast. My name is Herbie, and this is Padawan. We have a recommended book reading list. If you feel like you have a hard time understanding yourself at this stage in your life, check out No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert A. Glover. It's an aggressive title, but a very meaningful book when it comes to understanding the self, both men and women, masculinity and femininity. So you'll see it first in yourself, then throughout the world, so it brings peace through understanding. Do you suffer from a mental illness that you want to actually do something about? Or do you just want to be able to change your patterns and behaviors in life? Check out that book with the girl with holding her hand up. It's an amazing book. The Body's Map of Consciousness, Volume 1, Movement, by Lansing, Barrett, Gresham, and Julie J. Nichols. Do you have body or neck aches throughout the day or throughout the night? And gone to chiropractors and just been frustrated with not being able to get a permanent fix? Check out the purple book, The Structures and Movement of Breathing by Conable, and Anatomy of the Voice by Theodore Dimon for a more detailed look there, that book on the left, and take charge in getting your relief back. All these books are highly recommended and pretty short and just freaking phenomenal books. Beyond impressive, incredible, ridiculous, awesome, stupendous, prodigious. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Inner and outer world peace through individual strength, feeling so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without. Welcome back to the Best Feeling Podcast and the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast, son. My name is Herbie. This is Pal Go On. Welcome back to Warfare Wednesday. We're talking today right and wrong. Wherever you are, whether you are blinking your eyes or closing them or working productively or being lazy or relaxing as you know you should sometimes. We hope you're doing well out there. We hope you are doing well out there. Today we're talking about right and wrong. Why should you care about right and wrong? To reduce suffering, to not be a slave to pain and suffering. There is right and wrong, just as there is balanced and imbalanced. There is right and wrong, just as there is balance and imbalance. You want a right and wrong to have confidence and security in the decisions that you make. You want a right and wrong. Although we might resist it in today's culture, you want a right and wrong. With the infinite decisions we make daily, I can be sure that any of the decisions that you're making are ones that you won't regret. You have so many decisions, even should I look left or look right, or should I look down, or should I talk to my friend, or should I reject them at the moment, or should I get food now or food later? We are making so many decisions every day, even to simply be listening to this, or even to shift your awareness towards your vision versus your hearing. We have so many decisions that we're making daily. Even when it comes to whether or not I should relax, we're making all these decisions daily. Establish a goal. What is the goal of life? A conversation that this nation needs to have, the world needs to have. Establish a goal. What is the goal of life? Are we too busy talking about how art is subjective and life is subjective that we're willing to allow everybody to suffer unnecessarily just because we're too afraid of people being sensitive about it? But what is sensitivity if just having lack of confidence? We're here to instill you with some confidence from the inside out. If you would join me in spreading that sweet, sweet, sweet hearing awareness to the front of your shins, as if you're listening to the front of your shins, like they are the speakers of the world, as we leave our swallowing muscles alone and observe our sense of self today. What is the goal of life? Most would say to seek pleasure. If you look on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, what you'll see are infographics, videos, charts explaining how to indulge in the most pleasure in life so that you might feel satisfied. And yet simply seeking pleasure often leads to more familiar suffering, as we know it always does. Was that good for you? Maybe being lazy, sleeping in, or overeating felt that it was good, quote unquote, for us. Which makes sense if the point of life is to seek pleasure and to avoid discomfort. Which, of course, is a worldview that, again, makes sense when we feel trapped, unempowered, unsure of our own ability to do for ourselves the good that we desire in life. How could there be any other worldview when your body is here and now, not in the past or some hypothetical future? Just like all things, recognizing some info can be a double-edged sword, like this balance stuff we talk about. Knowing our body is only here and now is fantastic when we accept and agree about this truth. But when we don't have a reliable way to feel so good from the inside out, using our own awareness, we find that our bodies are here and now, and oh no, there's no hope because we cannot feel at balance. We cannot accept or integrate with the truth of where we are. We cannot feel at balance again. So, this kind of sucks that we're only in the here and now, this body says. There's no hope but to simply desire pleasures and then avoid discomfort if this is the worldview, if this is the best we can do at the moment, which is to not be able to feel so good from the inside out, but rather depend on external factors to make us feel good. Our body doesn't know about these external factors or anything in the future, so our body's going to obsess with any kind of pleasure that it finally gets, as it feels like it won't be able to get it again, since it doesn't feel like it can generate it from the inside out. It has to rely on an unseen source outside of there and just like worship it whenever it comes around and then feel dead whenever it's not around. Our bodies don't know if pleasure will sometime come or if relief is ever going to come. We don't have a reliable way to feel good from the inside out. Our bodies have no clue when it's going to feel better again, if it ever will, before it dies. All it knows for sure is that it's going to die. So if there's no way to feel good from the inside out without depending on external factors, the body's always in oh crap mode. All I know is I'm going to die someday and I'm in pain right now. I want to get rid of this pain because I only have so much time. This body only knows that it wants relief right now if that feeling is known to only come from outside sources. It's like the body's blind to it because the body's just like right here and now. So how it feels is how it feels. And we know we don't control the outside sources, so we can expect to overindulge and really unhealthily take advantage of any pleasure that comes our way. It's like a deprivation think kind of attitude. We obsess and are dependent on things like just as if we're never going to get that thing again, like love or food or drink or drugs or alcohol or substances. We end up overindulging in those pleasures as we have no way to feel good from the inside out. So anytime we can feel better than the pain that we're always feeling from feeling imbalanced mentally, emotionally, and physically, we're just like, oh shoot, drugs, something that can take that away. Heck yeah. It's like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to feel this, so I'm going to take it. If your worldview is stuck in an unempowered state where it can't feel good from the inside out, it might feel like your mental state is like in this place where you're in constant pain, emotionally, mentally, or physically. It's like a constant just on your life. And as we know, it's physically manifested as well. When we feel as though the need to survive depends on an outside source, we develop a deprivation mindset in which we seek shallow, immediate pleasures to deal with the constant pain brought onto us by believing something else is responsible to whether or not we feel alive or free. And so aren't we like slaves in the end? Should we not be able to generate this good feeling from within us, this right feeling within us, this balanced feeling within us? Don't we depend on outside sources and then lose our ability to live life, to experience life as we feel like a slave to trying to escape this pain rather than free to explore whatever pleasures we might want to look for? Here lies our victim mentality. Here we inadvertently reveal that we've consigned our life, our authenticity, our freedom to being a slave to an outside source. So why live according to right and wrong? Why live to then live according to right and wrong? Or why live to seek right and wrong and then live according to it? Why? Why live to seek right and wrong and then live according to that? To seek right and wrong is to seek balance and imbalance. The point of least pain is from a point of balance. Again, the point of least pain is from a point of balance. If there's anything that we know is true in this lifetime, it's pain. You know, when like the body is feeling completely absent of pain, the body feels whole. There's not much sensation. In fact, that is kind of the sensation, is the lack of pain. It's kind of like when you get a stomach ache and you really feel that part of your body when you have that stomach ache, right? But then as soon as the stomach ache goes away, you have just a holistic feeling in the body in which you're not really segmenting it up anymore, but rather it feels like a whole. But then when you have a stomach ache, you definitely feel an othering. Your awareness of your own body becomes like more fragmented, compartmentalized as you separate the way your stomach feels from the rest of your body. As we know, pain is one of the only things. Pain is like what we know about the world. You could even consider the weight of gravity, weight itself, to be a sort of discomfort that we learn to deal with. Pain is more just like the chaos to the order, the yin to the yang. But we know that as pain being the most real thing we know, we spend our lives trying to free ourselves of this pain, or at least find ourselves a reliable way to deal with that pain no matter where we go, no matter where we are. And isn't that what begins all of these different practices of yoga, religion, and philosophy, as we want to seek a way to deal with all the pain most easily? And how do we deal with all the pain most easily? Well, we find as best as possible a tool that can deal with all the pains, so that we were using the same tool to deal with all the pain. Isn't that the ultimate goal? So that we can just get good at using this one tool. And if you get good at really using that one tool, it'll apply to everything, all types of pain. The point of least pain is from a pain of, the point of least pain is from a place of balance. And from a point of no pain, exists no deprivation think. Again, from a point of no pain, exists no deprivation thinking. There's no deprivation thinking from a point of no pain. As we feel ready to receive all good that comes our way, but is not desperate to rid ourselves of any pain that might be inflicted upon us, as we can deal with it. And from a point of no pain exists no slavery, as we know that being in constant fear of pain, and why would you have fear of pain? Well, you would have no reliable way to deal with that pain, so eventually you grow a fear of that pain. We know that having a fear of a pain that you can't overcome causes you to be a slave to that pain, like hiding in the shadows of a flashlight that is observing, or a flashlight that's shining on an object in a room. Like being forced to hide in the shadow of the shadow that's cast by the flashlight that is shining on an object in a room. Having a pain that you're afraid of because you have no reliable way of dealing with that pain in a acceptable and timely manner, satisfactory to you. You become a slave, simply becoming the shape of whatever avoids that pain. So always orienting either away or towards that pain, instead of being free to choose which direction feels right for your soul and that body of yours at that time. The point of least pain is from a point of balance. And from a point of balance, you gain freedom, truth, love, authenticity, all the good stuff. Right and wrong exists in the world the same way balance does. Only a tower of blocks at balance will stand and stay. And a tower of blocks at imbalance will fall. It's only a matter of time. Now, there are many ways to stack these blocks. Some will be more delicate than others. with others only, with all of them, only the stable orderings of these blocks will gain very much height. You could stack one block on the ground, or you could stack 20 blocks. But in order to stack up to 20 blocks, one would best know more about these blocks, what is right and wrong about those blocks, what information is right, what information is wrong about those blocks, so that these blocks may stack as high as they can to achieve the most greatness, the most awe-inspiring balance, while also serving such a purpose as creating this giant tower. Yes, there might be many ways to stack this tower, but only the most stable orderings of these towers by knowing the most about. Or, yes, you can stack all these blocks in different ways and achieve some kind of height, but only the most stable orderings of these blocks to make this tower will make it the highest tower as possible. Only the most stable orderings of these blocks will create a balanced structure that can go as high as it can go. And only the most knowledge of what is right and wrong about those blocks will give you the information you need to be able to create a stable and properly ordered stacking of those blocks to achieve maximum human flourishing, to create maximum balance. And as we know, from a point of maximum balance, we have the potential for maximum freedom, maximum authenticity in your daily life, maximum satisfaction, maximum confidence in what we are doing in our daily lives. Right and wrong? Right and wrong? Is it just to seek pleasure? This right and wrong? What is the point of life? If we can decide this point of life, can't we then decide what is right and wrong? Well, don't you want to go beyond just seeking pleasure in order to see a worldview in life? Don't we want to go beyond just seeking pleasure, as pleasure seems to always land us in that same, or seeking immediate pleasures always seem to land us in that familiar suffering spot as usual? Or is it to achieve maximum balance so that we may move freely and authentically in any moment position in our lives, whether that's physical, emotional, or spiritual? Don't we want to achieve maximum balance so that we can free ourselves of any imbalance as easily as possible? Not any specific imbalance in general, but the ability to deal with all imbalance by being able to return to balance from any state, which will allow even more freedom and the ability to deal with the next imbalance instead of being overloaded with imbalance after imbalance, which cannot be dealt with. And how do we achieve that balance? Well, we seek what is right and wrong about our shapes and how we might stack and balance on ourselves. As in, what are we as humans? What do we desire? What is our shape? What is our size? What is our soul about? What are these problems? What are these human conditions? Isn't there something to be sought after in terms of right and wrong if seeking to balance our human condition properly? All the different components of our human condition. The fact that we may die, the fact that we will die, the fact that we are seeking a mate, the fact that we are seeking purpose, the fact that we must eat daily, the fact that we must drink daily, the fact that we must sleep, the fact that we must secure ourselves a good life in the future, the fact that we must create for ourselves a life in which we are proud of, the fact that we must create of ourselves someone that is a desirable mate, the fact that we of ourselves want to find ourselves proper in the order of the universe, making decisions and feeling confident about those decisions instead of feeling insecure as if we are fighting against our best interest. The fact that we want to feel like we're always working towards our best interest while also avoiding discomfort in the process. How do we balance all of those? Well, we think in terms of right and wrong. We be unafraid to think in terms of right and wrong as we remember that right and wrong is represented in reality. We're simply playing the game. Let's balance high. Let's get it the tower high. Let's balance well by learning what is right and wrong about what we are balancing, and also seeing right and wrong in terms of balance itself as we try to balance ourselves for maximum height and maximum freedom to move in any which direction in which life might influence us. In order to get the greatest and good for ourselves, we pretend that there's a candle in front of our lips that we're trying to not put out. I hope you had a fantastic time in this conversation. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Whether we are chilling in the background or whether you have us right out there in the front. Whatever you have us doing. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had a great time. I hope we gave you something to think about. Maybe at least a little bit. I hope you've been remembering to listen for 7 different things in the rooms. I hope you've been remembering to allow all these words to go in one ear and out the other. We blend into this fantastic symphony that is your life. You blessed creature, you beautiful, magical time traveler, you, if you're watching us in a VOD, or if you're watching us, which is a video on demand, or if you're watching us live at the premiere on YouTube at 9 a.m. here on November 16th, 2022, Wednesday. It is a Warfare Wednesday. We were talking about right and wrong, baby. Hope you've been remembering to listen to the front of your shins as we blend into the symphony around you. And then remember that we do not sit on our legs as we leave our swelling muscles alone. How does your sense of self feel from that? Thank you so much for being here today. I want to thank you for your continued support, especially after all this time. We finally got this pop filter on this microphone. The timing's been kind of weird for these shows. YouTube's been giving me a hard time, but at the same time, I also could be doing a better job of compressing these files, so I'll be trying to get them premiering properly at the right times in the mornings on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Let me know how those time blocks is working for you. Let me know how you feel about all this. You know where to find me. Go ahead and comment. Smash the like button. Smash the subscribe button. Let's go feel so good from the inside out. Let's go have some nice conversations, but also give our souls like a cup of tea at the same time. Thank you so much for your continued support. Big love. This has been the Best Feeling Podcast, the Best Feeling Network, your only no-nonsense podcast. You know, my name is Herbie. And we shall see you tomorrow for a Truth Hurts Day. Are you ready? Leave those swelling muscles alone. Big love.